You know that feeling when you open your bank app and you just stare at the screen for a second too long? That hollow, sinking feeling in your chest. Like the numbers are mocking you. Like no matter how hard you work, how many hours you put in, how many sacrifices you make, you are somehow still behind. Still drowning. Still one unexpected bill away from complete panic. I want you to know something right now. I have been exactly where you are, and I mean exactly. There was a point in my life where I was doing the math in my head at the grocery store, quietly removing things from the cart before I got to the checkout, pretending I forgot I needed something, but the truth was I just could not afford it. And the shame of that, the quiet, invisible shame of that, was suffocating. Debt does not just take your money, it takes your sleep, it takes your confidence, it takes your ability to be present in a conversation, because somewhere in the back of your mind there is always a number running, a balance, a due date, a payment you forgot about or hoped you could push back one more week. And here is what nobody talks about, the loneliness of it. You cannot really explain to people what it feels like to watch your paycheck disappear before you even get to breathe. To feel like you are working full-time just to pay for the version of your life that already happened last month. That was my reality. And if any of that sounds familiar to you, then what I am about to share with you changed everything for me. Not slowly, not eventually, but in a way that I wish someone had just sat me down and explained years earlier. Before I go any further though, I do want to mention that there is a program linked down below in the video description that builds on exactly what I am sharing today and takes it further. I am not going to pressure you into anything. But I will tell you this. The people who are not ready to change their financial situation are going to scroll right past it and stay exactly where they are. The people who are genuinely tired of the cycle are going to check it out. That is all I will say for now. Now let me tell you about the one rule that completely restructured my relationship with money. It is called the zero-based budget, and I know that sounds either obvious or terrifying depending on where you are financially. But stick with me because the way most people think about budgeting is completely wrong. And that wrong thinking is exactly why the average household carries thousands in debt for years and years without ever really making a dent. Most people budget reactively. They spend money throughout the month, they reach the end, they panic, they promise themselves they will do better next month, and then next month comes and the cycle starts again. This is not a discipline problem, this is a systems problem. And you cannot solve a systems problem with willpower. The zero-based budget is different. It is ruthless. It is uncomfortable at first. But it works because it forces you to assign every single dollar a job before the month begins. Every dollar. Not most of them, not the big ones, every single one. Here is what that means in practice. You look at your take-home income for the coming month. Let us say it is $3,000. Before that month starts, you sit down and you allocate all $3,000. Rent goes here, groceries go here, gas goes here, debt payments go here, and so on until you get to zero. Not until you run out of things to spend on, until the number literally reaches zero and every single dollar has been given a purpose. Now here is where it gets important. If you have anything left over after your essentials and your debt payments, that money does not get to just sit there waiting to be impulse spent. It gets assigned to an emergency fund, to an extra debt payment, to a savings goal, to something with intention, because unassigned money is spent money, period. I need to pause here and talk about the thing that most budgeting advice completely ignores. The emotional weight of watching your spending before it happens instead of after it happens. When you budget reactively, every purchase feels like an attack. You overspent on food this week. You forgot about that subscription. You did not plan for the car thing. It is all a long list of failures. But when you pre-assign your money at the start of the month, something psychologically shifts. Every purchase you make that fits within your budget is no longer a failure. It is a decision you already made, a controlled decision. And that shift from shame to agency is not small. It is life-altering. Within the first month of using this method, I found over $200 I did not know I was bleeding out every month. Not through one big thing, through the death by 1,000 cuts that most of us never track because we are too afraid to look. Subscriptions we forgot about. Convenience fees. That extra coffee that happened 4 times a week instead of once. None of these things feel significant in the moment. But add them up at the end of a month, and you are looking at real money. Money that could be hitting your debt instead of evaporating into nothing. And that is where people start to feel it. When the debt balance actually moves, even by $100, even by 50. Something wakes up inside you, because for so long the number just felt permanent, like a weight bolted to your ankle, and suddenly it is not. Suddenly the number is shrinking. And that feeling is more addictive than anything that debt ever bought you. Let me be honest with you about something though. This rule is brutal in the beginning. The first time you sit down to do a zero-based budget and you look at your income next to your expenses, there is a very real chance you are going to feel sick. Because you are going to see in black and white exactly how far off things are, and that moment is painful. but it is also one of the most important moments of financial clarity you will ever experience. Research consistently shows that people who use written budgets are significantly more likely to pay off debt than people who track spending informally. The act of writing it down before the month starts is not just organizational, it is neurological. It changes how your brain categorizes money. Spent money becomes conscious money. The average person who has been carrying revolving debt for more than 2 years has paid more in interest than they spent on the original purchases. Think about that. You are paying for things you already consumed, already wore out, maybe already threw away. The cost of inaction here is not just financial. It is years of your life tied to a number that is working against you every single month. Now I want to speak directly to the person who just thought to themselves, this is not for me because my situation is too complicated. Maybe you have multiple income streams. Maybe your expenses vary month to month. Maybe you have tried budgeting before and it fell apart. That resistance is not a sign that you are beyond help. It is actually a sign that you need a system more than most people. Because complicated situations do not get better with vague intentions, they get better with structure. And the zero-based budget is flexible enough to handle complexity once you understand the framework. Variable months just mean you budget conservatively and roll over anything extra into debt or savings. It is not complicated once you stop treating the budget as a report card and start treating it as a plan. I want to talk about what life looks like on the other side of this. And I do not mean some distant fantasy version. I mean concretely, specifically, what changes. First, the 3 a.m. wake-up stop. You know exactly what I mean. That sudden wide-awake moment where a bill you forgot about surfaces and your heart does that thing. Those stop. Not because the bills go away overnight, but because you know what every bill is, when it is due, and exactly how it is being handled. That clarity alone is worth more than most people realize until they have it. Second, your relationship with your paycheck changes. Instead of receiving it, and feeling a brief moment of relief followed by a wave of anxiety as you watch it disappear, you feel something different. Purposeful. In control. You already decided where that money was going before it even hit your account. That is a completely different emotional experience. Third, and this one takes time, but when it happens, it hits hard. You start to look at your debt total and see a finish line instead of a wall. People who pay off debt using zero-based budgeting report not just financial improvement, but measurable improvements in mental health, relationship quality, and overall life satisfaction. Because financial stress does not live in a box separate from the rest of your life. It bleeds into everything. And when it starts to lift, everything gets lighter. Within 6 months of applying this one rule consistently, many people see their debt balances drop by 30 to 40%. Not because they got a raise, not because something lucky happened, but because for the first time they were actually seeing where the money was going and redirecting it with intention. There is a moment that happens somewhere in this process. A quiet Tuesday or a regular Wednesday afternoon where you check your balance and you realize the dread is not there anymore. You are not bracing yourself. You are just checking a number, and that moment, that small, completely ordinary moment, is the moment you know it has actually changed. Now, if you are sitting here, and something in you is saying, yes, I want to get there, I want to actually build this out properly, and stop white-knuckling my way through the month hoping something changes, then I want you to scroll down to the video description right now. There is a program linked there that gives you a complete roadmap to implementing everything I talked about today, and far more beyond it. And here is what I will say honestly. If you are not ready to stop surviving financially and start actually building something, then this is not for you, and that is fine. But if you are tired, genuinely tired of the cycle, then the link is there. The people who wait for a better moment tend to be waiting a year from now in the exact same place. The people who move on what they feel in this moment are the ones who actually change their numbers. The choice is yours, and it is sitting right below this video.